SWES, Society of Women Engineers. Let's just start off by giving a big welcome to our two special guests today. So I'm going to give a brief introduction about both of them, and then you'll get to hear what they have to share with us. So the special person on my right is Miss Rachel Michelson. She is a senior cybersecurity analyst with UL LLC, which is Underwriters Laboratory and Health Science Business Unit with responsibilities for cybersecurity and standards compliance of connected medical devices. She graduated from MIT with a bachelor's degree and then also a master's degree from National Technological University. And now she also is associated with MIT and is in charge of helping high school students who apply for admissions into MIT. And then the other person we have here is Linnea Rylander. She is going to be part of the MIT class of 2021. So huge congratulations to her. Without further ado, I'd like to turn over the spotlight.
I guess I'll start. So, Rachel Michelson, class of 1993. That was a long time ago. I have two teenagers in the school. My support group is over there in the corner. So it's a wonderful school. I absolutely admire what the school does for you guys, and it's preparing you very nicely for any type of challenge that you might be facing in the future. I also, to correct what the person introducing us said, I'm not in charge of helping students, but I interview students. When you apply to MIT, you get a personal interview with a local alumni, somebody who's local, and can just give a personal touch to your application, to your perfect grade, to your wonderful test scores and everything. A personal touch. So I've done a lot of these interviews, and I'll be able to tell you today how to prepare for those and what to expect and what I think the school is looking for. I don't get to see your grades when I interview somebody like that. I don't get to see your test scores. I see the person, and I write up an essay about that, and I rate the students. I say what their enthusiasm level is like. Do I think they're going to fit the culture? And I'll be able to talk to you today about that. Thank you.
I'm Linnea. I actually go to Buffalo Grove High School, but it's very similar to GBS in a lot of aspects, including like the rigor and just the overall quality of the school. Both of them are really great schools. I'm going to MIT next year. I committed about 2 weeks ago, and yeah.
Great. I guess you guys have questions already, or start with a little background. All right.
What do you do in your job?
Okay. So when I graduated from MIT, I had about 5 job offers, and they were all software companies because my major was electrical engineering with computer science, and I picked a job at Motorola. And for 20 years, I was at Motorola working on cryptography products. And then recently, about 6 months ago, I moved to UL to try to break into devices, medical devices. Any medical device these days is connected to the internet, but not all the time, right? It's connected, let's say it's a pump that pumps medication to somebody's name. Periodically, it goes online. So historically, it didn't need to be connected to anything. The nurse punched in the instructions and came back with medication, and that was it. These days, people want to be able to select the medication while sitting at a computer far away, and then have the nurse just press a button or connect the patient and have the medication go. So that means your pump is now connected to the internet, and that means remote attacks can come in, and somebody can come in remotely and change the dosage, turn the device off, and do all sorts of other damage. So we test the devices for that. Try to break into them and show the manufacturers what they should be improving. you guys coming up with more questions, I can tell you that, so I got into MIT as a transfer student. So we started the conversation that way. I had credits from other schools, and there was good and bad in that. The good part is, if you don't get into the freshman, you can always try again. You know that there's other ways to try to get in. The bad part is I only spent 2.5 years there, and I didn't have a chance to make as many friends as I should have, could have made. So, but it was a great day. Wonderful. It was invigorating to see lots of people that are like you. You know, lots of people that value education and are willing to work hard and have all sorts of creative qualities to them. And it's humbling because you thought you were on top of your class and you were it, but now there's a whole campus full of people like that, and then it invigorates you because you have somebody to admire and somebody to connect with you on that level. It's humbling, so that was great. Yeah.
How important are like grades as opposed to other things such as like ACT, SAT, digital portfolios, stuff like that?
So I don't get to see your grades when you interview, so I can't say what it is they're looking for. From my experience, they've looked at, I've had instructions from MIT in the past, and I remember one year they were specifically looking for leadership. Specifically, they were saying, we're looking for people who helped organize clubs and demonstrated leadership in some other ways. I saw that change a little bit lately. I think they're looking more for academic achievement in your interest, in your area that you want to go to. That's my personal observation. So I think grades are obviously important. Everybody that applies has top grades. But what's also important, I think, is if you find a way to differentiate yourself from everybody else. Do an interesting project or reach out to, I've interviewed students that, their high school didn't offer something that they were interested in. They went to a local community college and took a class there and managed to have that, accepted by the high school. So that shows also leadership, but it also shows leadership specifically in the area that they want to study. So I think that's important. Grades are important, obviously. Test scores are obviously important. But any way you can differentiate yourself and make the reader excited about you, not bored while reading your application, that certainly helps. Because the admission rate is what, 8%? I mean, you gotta do something to stay there.
Going off of that too, I feel like grades and SAT scores are kind of just like a baseline, but they're not make or break. You definitely have to have grades or SAT scores of like a certain level, but I know I had a friend who got in to MIT and he had like a 32. So some people think oh, you have to get perfect 36, but really what they do is they look at who you are as a person, and I feel like that's also what makes MIT different from a lot of other schools, that they look at you for who you are. I would say the application has it has a couple different parts. So there's grades and SAT scores, ACTs. Then there's essays, and for me there was 5. I think there's probably going to be 5 again. That'd be my guess. So the 5 essays. The first one was about just highlight something you do purely for the fun of it, and then there was one about what are you interested in studying if you were to go to MIT. The cool thing about MIT is they don't have you don't have to declare your major until the end of your freshman year. So you can go there and not know what you want to do. If you have an idea, oh, I want to do something with engineering, but I'm not sure. At the end of your freshman year is when you declare your major. So you have a whole year then while you're there to figure it out. And then there's also so there's essays and there's ACT scores, and then there's also the interview, which she talked about. I did my interview with this lady who lives near us, and they match you up with somebody that lives near you, and and then that person, you guys meet at like Starbucks or a library, wherever is convenient, and then just talk about, what your passions are. And I feel like one of the really main things that MIT is looking for is passion, and just to have something you're really interested in, and just show that. So I would say regarding the maker portfolios, I would say those, if you have a passion that you really want to convey and you don't feel like you convey it in your essays, I would definitely recommend doing a portfolio of some sort, whether it's music, if you play an instrument or sing, or whether it's, if you program some really cool thing, like project, or, wrote a research paper that you want to share with them.
And I approve this message.
And I think that'd be really important to just show who you are. So I can give my personal example. I did not submit a maker portfolio, but at the end of my application, it says is there anything else that you'd like to convey? Is there anything else that you want us to know about add to your application? And I said, yeah. So in this one essay, I wrote about how I crochet, which is kind of like knitting except with a hook, and I wrote about that, and then in the section where I could add whatever I wanted, I wrote, hey, check out this website that I made where I sell some of my patterns. And so I programmed a website that I use to sell some of my patterns, and I feel like that conveyed my ability to, kind of the cross-curricular thing, and how I have multiple different interests. I'm not entirely just studying 24/7. I have all these other interests, and I think that's kind of what helps.
That's right.
So what were some of your extracurriculars that you did?
Okay, so I have been in a lot of different things. So I was in Science Olympiad, math team, Scholastic Bowl. I volunteered at my church, to teach Sunday school. I was a literacy lab tutor at my school. Yeah, those are my main extracurriculars, I would say. But yeah. I mean, I also in band. I don't know if that's something else, but I would say just find whatever you're passionate about and whatever you really enjoy, and do what you enjoy, and then convey that on your application. I think that's the most important thing.
You have to be forthcoming with information. Even when you have your interview, you have to actually tell a story.
Yeah.
What is the biggest advice you have to people who are going into these interviews?
Be prepared. So what I don't like to see is when people come in and they ask questions that you can look up on the website. If they ask, does MIT have a lacrosse team? So that tells me that they're not prepared, they didn't do their research, and I don't know if they really on that. So be prepared, know a lot about what you want to study and what the school is like, because that helps me see the enthusiasm, that helps me see that you actually are really interested in this. And that's one advice. And then the second is, tell a story, be forthcoming with information. I usually ask, just tell me about a class that you're excited about, tell me about a project that you're excited about, and I judge the level of excitement. Even if you get very technical and you tell me about things that I have no idea about, I can still judge how you're able to explain yourself, and how deep is your level of involvement in this. And even if things fail, if you say, well, I tried X, Y, and Z and it didn't work, that's fine too. I just want to know that you were persistent, that you tried, and you're able to tell about it. everybody's in the same boat and everybody knows that they're working hard and they're trying to drink from a fire hose, they say. So they know how you feel and they are very supportive. I didn't feel competitive at all.
I think one of the main things that made me choose MIT was just the people. They have this thing called CPW, which stands for Campus Preview Weekend. And so it's this weekend where you go if you're admitted, and you just like talk. You can talk with whoever you want. Like you stay in the dorms, so you have like a host, and you stay in the dorms, and then just all the people who got accepted are invited to come for that weekend. So you meet a ton of new people, and just one thing that really hit me was just everybody's so excited to help you and to, if you're lost, like I got lost at one point during the weekend, and I like asked one of the upperclassmen like, hey, could you show me where to do this? And they like walked me there. Like that was how excited they were to like help out somebody. So I feel like another thing, MIT chooses its class. I think I read on one of the admissions posts, they choose it as if they're like climbing a mountain, and so they pick who, not necessarily all the like really smartest people, but people who would work together, and people who have good character qualities as well. And I think that just makes the environment a lot more friendly, and it didn't seem competitive at all to me. I'm sure there's people who are competitive, and there are competitions and things like that, but in terms of, hey, I'm gonna like try to get better grades than that person, I'm gonna beat out that person, I don't do that at all there.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you know that MIT was different to you?
Me?
And what kind of
I think the people, and going to Campus Preview Weekend was the biggest thing that made me realize, like, hey, I really want to go here. Experiencing it in person was like awesome, and I would say definitely just for colleges in general, visit the campus if you like before you apply, even if you can, because it gives you a feeling for, hey, do I actually want to go here or not? And like, why waste the time writing out a whole application, writing out all these essays if it's not somewhere that's gonna fit you? So.
How did you know what you wanted to be, like major in?
Me? I don't know. Who?
Both of you?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I took AP Computer Science. I want to major in computer science, but I don't have to declare my major till the end of my freshman year, so technically I'm not majoring in anything right now. But I think I want to go into computer science, and I would say it's definitely because of the problem-solving aspect of it, and just there's no right answer, but you can create something like really cool programs, and it also has so many applications. You can use programming and computer science in just about any field nowadays, because everything is being taken over by technology. So I feel like that's really cool too, and I'm looking forward to seeing the other applications and the other things I can do with it. And studying.
Yeah. So in my case, this being in the early 90s, I mean, I always knew I was going to be some sort of engineer, but back then the computers were it. They were starting up, and it made sense to just go see whatever was new, where the world was going. So that's how I picked that. But I always knew that I was going to be some sort of engineer.
And another thing, at MIT, it's actually about a third of the kids who go there are studying like computer science or like computer science and electrical engineering, or some combination of both. So that's definitely like the dominant field. I would say the second most popular is like mechanical engineering maybe, or physics, but there's so many different majors there, and it's also really easy to get like a major in something and then a minor in something else. So if you're thinking like, hey, I really love biology, but like I'm also really interested in like mechanical engineering, you can like minor and do a major in one of those.
You can combine, and there are a lot of people that, for instance, went to medical school after MIT. So it's all open. There's no, you're not locking yourself into something. And then,
How was the workload?
so the workload was like this. Classes are rated with the number of hours that you spend a week doing those classes. For instance, typical class might be 12 hours a week. That's an estimate, of course. So if you take three classes that are 12 each, and then a 15-hour class, which is usually something that has a lab, so the lab can, take up all of your time, then that's a 51-hour work week. And I would say that that's a conservative estimate. There's a lot of studying. There's a lot of studying on your own, and then there's lectures and seminars. And so 51-hour week, official estimate, is typical for a computer science major.
We noticed that more schools are starting to accept fewer AP scores. How important would you say those scores are, or the class exam scores are?
So what helped me, because I was a transfer student, I had credits from my other schools in computer science. What was helpful is that I didn't get I didn't get to skip those classes, but it was very useful to have that knowledge in order to go over, half the class and already understand the basic information. Because without that, I would have been very lost. So even if you don't get credit, so as a transfer, I was able to get credit for some classes. They sent me to talk to the individual professors in the subject that I wanted credit for, and if I talked to the professor, if the professor was satisfied, then they gave me credit. So they were very open about that and easy to give credit. And then that was for mostly my electives. But for my computer science classes, I took them again, and I was very glad that I had basic knowledge when I studied that. Because that first class, that first 6001, which is going to be taking, that weeded out a lot of people. It went very fast and went very deep and covered a lot of different subjects. And at the end of my MIT studying, I felt like I could support conversations in many, many different subjects. Not very deep, but I could touch upon very different subjects because of how fast it went and how many different subjects it covered. So that class, graded a lot of people. So I was really glad I had some knowledge.
Regarding AP exams and AP tests too, and AP classes too, I know the only ones that they actually accept for like in terms of classes is physics. If you get a 5 on both the mechanics and the E&M exam, and Calc BC if you get a 5 on that. But those are the only ones that they accept. But there's also this thing called an advanced standing exam that you can take, and it's basically like taking the final of the class, and whatever you get on that, whatever grade you get on that, goes on your transcript. And then let's say you take the advanced standing exam for physics, and you don't do so well, then all you have to do is take the class, and then that whatever grade you get in the class when you take it replaces that bad grade from the final that you took in order to pass that class. So I know that if let's say you took all these AP classes and you're like, oh man, I'm not going to get any credit for this, even though I felt like I knew the material really well and I don't want to repeat the class, then you can probably just take the advanced standing exam and pass out of those classes as well.
Can you speak to the diversity at MIT? What is the student body made of in terms of, is it a lot of international students, a lot of, students from Massachusetts, or just the diversity when you're on campus?
So back when I was there, for women, there was a lot less women. And the push was to have equal number of bathrooms with women. So they were placed, there were whole buildings with no women's bathrooms. And when I was there, it was just becoming very equal. Right now, it's very equal.
I think it's like 46 and 50%, or no, not 50. 46 and 54. I can do that. Yeah, so it's definitely getting more equal. And in terms of like gender ratios, definitely. And I feel like also in terms of just ethnicities, like and backgrounds and stuff, you meet people from all over. There are a good amount of international students. I met people from all over the U.S. at Campus Preview Weekend. We all went around with little badges, and they had our names on them, and then in the background was what state we were from, and you would go around to all these different events, and there'd be like people talking to each other, like they had been friends for years, and they were like from like California and like Florida or something, and they were like had no connection. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of different people from a lot of different places and a lot of different backgrounds. So.
How important would you say it is to have a lot of AP classes on your transcript?
Well, like, I don't necessarily know because I'm not the admissions officer. I took a bunch of AP classes. I feel like they're looking for, as long as you challenge yourself and don't slack off and try to take the hardest classes that you can handle. I think that's important. I took, this past year, I took like 6 AP classes, and the year before I took 6. And then my freshman and sophomore year, I took 1 AP class each. So I feel like AP classes are important just to understand the rigor, but there are also some students coming from schools who like don't even offer AP classes. So I feel like as long as you are challenging yourself, that's probably the most important thing. And there's also a place on the form for you to explain any bad grades too. Or like if you want to explain anything about your transcript. So maybe like you say, oh, I didn't take all these as challenging courses because I was in sports and I was also in band and stuff, and that took up all my time because those were the things I was really passionate in. I feel like that's okay too. They look so much as like who the person is that I don't feel like it's easy to stereotype, hey, you have to take a certain exact number of AP classes, but just challenge yourself, I would say.
That is true. There's people internationally that don't have an extension maybe necessarily in our school, AP versus regular class, but they have some way to show, that they were advanced.
What is the atmosphere like in Boston?
But Boston is a college town. There's so many schools, and a person next to you on the bus or a person, in a house next to you might be a famous professor, which is exactly what happened to my parents. My parents had a house in Massachusetts. Guess who their neighbor was? Fulton, the economics professor. Yeah, and that was totally unexpected. In a modest house in a modest suburb, you have Fulton. So it's very driven by schools. If you want to lease an apartment, September is, most apartments go in September, it'll go free after May, when school year is over. Lots of things, if you want to do music, if you want to do sports, if you want to do anything, it's got everyone. It's great.
Through college, what was probably your favorite class to take?
So that first computer science class that weirded a lot of people out, the professor was a character. He jumped on the table and he once bit a piece of chalk in two in front of us, and he would get carried away talking about, he was illustrating a point. He would get carried away talking about his research, and then he would say, oh, by the way, read chapter 5. And then the junior professor, so he would lecture in front of with you versus 20 to 30 people in class. And so they would understand this and they would compensate, obviously, for the professor doing crazy things. So that was fun.
In addition to clubs that help you explore your interests, do you have any clubs that you think would be good to be a part of if you were to go to MIT?
I don't know. Like for getting in or just for succeeding there.
Well,
I mean, just having a diverse array of interests, I feel like might be important for the application process. But in terms of like succeeding while you're there, I mean, I haven't witnessed classes yet, but I would say I went to a activity fair when I was there for the preview weekend, and they have so many different clubs and activities and stuff. So if you join, like they had a spinning arts club, and they had like this demonstration where they like threw fire and had like all these things lit on fire, and they were like juggling them and like spinning them and stuff. It was crazy. So I feel like anything that you're interested in, you can find an outlet to do it there too. And I would say try whatever you're interested in and do a diverse array of things, but don't limit yourself to just academic things.
what are some common misconceptions about MIT and applying to MIT that you would like for you to
I don't have anything like that.
I mean, I guess just the overwhelming thing is that, MIT, that's the school where like all the nerds go and they like only study 24 hours a day and stuff. But like some of the people I met there, are so cool, and they have all these like diverse interests, and they don't just study 24 hours a day, and that's kind of a misconception, I guess, in general, just of any upper level school academically. They have social events and all these different other clubs and
How does your senior thesis work?
In senior thesis, you find a professor that has an assignment, a project, and you work with the professor, and they help you, and they give you an assignment, and then they grade you. That's how it is. You write a paper.
What is the lecture hall classroom like?
So there's a few very large classrooms for your basic classes that you take in first year. There's could be 200 people listening to the senior professor, and then they break you out into little groups with junior professors, and those they go over and say, those are called seminars, maybe. I think that's what they're called. Seminars. Mm-hmm. And so you have your lecture for the main professor, and then you have your seminars for the less senior ones, for the basic classes for the first year. As you get further in your curriculum, more advanced, then you start taking classes that are more advanced, and your class size gets smaller. You're in the regular one.
What types of questions do you ask students during your interviews?
So I start out with just saying, tell me what's exciting, tell me whether you worked on a project that's exciting, or a class that's exciting, and then watch for the level of enthusiasm, and then see how we cover their academic things. And I would ask things like, did you work as a group or on your own? What role did you have if this was a group? Were you the leader? Were you the treasurer, or whatever it is that neither of the project was? So I try to judge where they fit in the group. If they go to competitions, I also try to ask, how does this work? How does the math team work? Do you solve a problem on your own, or do you collaborate? So I try to draw that information out. And whatever they tell me, basically, as long as they tell me enough information that I can draw a picture of what they do. And then we move on to other things. I ask them sometimes, or actually most of the time, what do you do for fun? What do you do with your friends? Do you go to movies? Do you go to sports? So we try to cover, and I've asked before, how do you manage all these many activities? And I hear what they have to say about that, because you guys are overloaded. I absolutely didn't have that much going on when I was that age. So, yeah, I'm curious how you guys manage all the workload. I look for evidence of having taken initiative to go do something that maybe wasn't readily available to you. I've had students that went to professors of colleges and got assignments from them while they were still in high school, and done assignments for professors, and then were able to talk about it and write about it. So I look for that kind of stuff. Yeah, but basically whatever they want to tell me.
Just along with that, do you have any best answers that stuck out to you, or worst answers? As you've interviewed
I have
Were you
some.
kind of
This one lady, this one girl that made it to MIT a couple of years ago, she did a project for a real professor at a real college, and that was very impressive. And she was pretty open about things that she tried that didn't work. She said, this didn't work, and this other thing didn't work, but then this worked. That was very, very, very nice. As far as strange examples, there was a student that we met at Starbucks, and he got there before me. He was sitting at the table, and it was one chair. He didn't even bother to put a second chair, at the table. So I came in. Not that I, need a chair, but if we're expecting a second person, you want to have a second chair there. So that's happened. There were people that obviously didn't know what the school was about, didn't have any information, and asked such basic questions that I said, this person didn't research this person doesn't have a connection. And this I can contrast to some students that I interviewed over Skype. They were from Russia, and they knew everything as if they were students themselves, because for them it was more than just getting to a better school. For them it was a chance to come out of wherever they are. And so, and one of them made it. One of their older friends was already a MIT student, and he was sending them emails and telling them about the school, and they read them, and they knew everything. They knew the professors, they knew what the classrooms were. You contrast that level of enthusiasm with somebody who hasn't bothered to read the website, and then
And is this also like a screening interview, or was there another interview? You said you met with someone who actually lived closer to you.
That's the one.
That's
That's what
I-
That's kind of the admissions
They do,
interview.
they do like Skype calls for if you live far away from other people, if there's no people in your area who can interview you, then I feel like, if I remember correctly, they might even say, okay, you're exempt from the interview then, if nobody moves. But since you guys all live around here, there are plenty of people that interview you.
So I would get assigned to high school, and if any people from that high school apply, then I'm their person to meet with them at Starbucks. Talk to them for an hour, and then write up a report. Yeah. So in my report, I would have to say what I deem their enthusiasm level be, what their how I think they will fit in the culture. So this is subjective, of course, but that element is necessary for the application.
Would you say it's more important to do 10 different clubs and that, and to have a really long list of things that you've done, or to have a few things that you've really invested yourself in?
Me?
Both of you.
So I guess I don't know what they look at, because that's outside of what I do. Me personally, I would prefer to see, if I were, a decision maker, I would prefer to see some depth into whatever they want to be, whatever problem they want to solve in the world, doing that, with some level of rigor and some level of just depth in general. That's what I would prefer, but of course I can't speak for the school.
Yeah, I would again say the biggest thing that I, witnessed in the application process and just talking with people is just conveying your passion for something. And so I would say if you enjoy, you know, only one or two clubs and only participate in one or two clubs, but are like the president of them and, you know, have looked for all these other opportunities, and reached out to your community to, like, you know, impact other people with them and stuff, that would be so much more valuable than just being a member on math team and science olympiad and all these other little small roles that don't really make an impact. Because that also gives you more to talk about too. Like, hey, look at, I did all these projects, rather than just saying, oh yeah, I was in like 2 competitions and that was it, you know.
I can talk about, if we have some time, if there are no more questions, I can talk about what happens after MIT, how do you get a job, what happens then. You guys want to know that far in advance?
Yeah.
So, companies come to campus for your senior year, you go and interview with companies. Those are really companies that look for people. So here, let me start from a different way. So professors, you know, they do research and they always come up with new things, and sometimes they test them on the students. Sometimes in computer science, when I was there, they were coming up with some new object-oriented language, and they gave us some handouts and say, there, you're gonna program in this. So when it came time for me to write a resume, I didn't have C or C++ to put on my resume. I had these weird languages that nobody's heard of, and I was panicking, and I said, you know, who's gonna want me? But the companies that come to interview to MIT, they understand this. They understand that they're getting a person who is capable of, you know, be given a 2-page handout, and they will learn whatever it is that you learn how to learn. You come out, and you can feel like you could, in 2 days with a handout, you can, you know all of it. So these companies come to campus, and they have a little half-an-hour interview with them if you want, and then they pick who they want for the real interview, where you come out to California or wherever they might be. So that was a very interesting process, and I have to say that there it also helps to be different, because they all have a script. They come, and they have a new student comes in front of them every half an hour, and that student, and they ask them the same questions, you know, what classes did you take, what grade did you get, what's your grade for the transcript. If I, as a student, could get them off of that beaten path, which is boring, incredibly boring, and talk to them about something that interests them, like what problem is your company solving, what problem do you have, and then you immediately, you know, steer away from that scripted path, then they remember you, and then you get a real interview that way. So I graduated, I had 5 job offers and for the year, but that was really a lot.
What kind of internship opportunities are there here in MIT?
Those same companies come and give internships, and even when I'm on the alumni club, I get solicitation emails from MIT that say, do you have any opportunities for our students? Can you host a student if one were to come and have an internship in the Chicago area? Do you want to host one and have one live with you? So they try. And then MIT has more opportunities than some of the other schools.
Can you explain, I know you got a really unique scholarship recently, and it has some advantages outside of financial advantages. Can you explain that scholarship a little bit you got?
Yeah, so just Monday, I got an email that I got this Northrop Grumman Engineering Scholarship, which also includes these internships over the summer. So 2 of the summers, I'm required, in order to keep the scholarship, I'm required to intern at Northrop Grumman over the summer. But it's not really a requirement, it's like super cool that I get to intern there. So that's really exciting. So another thing, just kind of going off the you never know which ones you're gonna get and which ones you're not. I've been fortunate to receive a couple scholarships now, but I applied for a ton. So I would say just, don't be afraid to fail and don't be afraid to like get rejected from schools or scholarships or whatever. Just go out there and try it, because you never know if you can be accepted to a school or if you'll end up winning a scholarship. I know I went into senior year thinking, oh, it'd be so cool if I like apply, like I'm gonna apply to MIT, but like we'll see, like that'll never happen. And then I got accepted, and I was like, wait, what? Like that's crazy. So definitely just go and try things, because you never know what'll happen.
Actually, what you just said about you thought it was crazy that you got
Yeah.
admitted, that is actually on the, if you read the blogs that are out there, MIT students, most people are so surprised and they think, well, maybe I don't deserve it, maybe that's an accident, maybe I'm not as good as all these other people. That's actually pretty common. Except me, I didn't. But yeah, that's a common theme because it's just, we meet so many great people that you feel that way.
Can I go back to, you made a comment just simply, I always knew I wanted to be an engineer. And one of the things we talk about all the time is how early on in the educational process sometimes young ladies, I'd love to hear the statistics and the ratio at MIT that now it's different.
It's different.
Amazing in your lifetime, but there were buildings without bathrooms and factories.
Right.
What an experience. But you so easily said, I always knew I wanted to be an engineer. And you stepped into an environment where you were clearly one of the few in probably most of the classes, and that's a challenging situation to step into. Like how'd you get there?
So how I get there is probably not how you're gonna get there, because I did not grow up in this country. I never had the issue. Russia is as much as many disadvantages that it had, that wasn't one of them. Girls were always equal, and nobody dared tell me that I wasn't good enough. I would kick their butt all the way to the back. So that was not an issue. I saw I wanted to be an engineer. My parents were technical mathematicians, and there was no issue there. But I do feel sad about the fact that we have to tell our girls now that they can do as much as boys. And as a mother of 3 girls, I have to say that I don't understand that. I think girls don't get a discount, in life just because they're girls, and they have to support families and they have to make a living, and not telling them that they need to do this. It's not that they're good enough and they can do it, but they have to do it because there's no other choice. They're going to have to live a life and support themselves. So I think I don't understand how one would not tell their girls that.
You were also, I'm sure, sitting in a lot of classes that you were not majority as a young lady. And still the case in computer science, another field that females are underrepresented. So how did you come to that, or kind of work your way through that? It can be easier to avoid that feeling, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I know I took AP Computer Science my junior year, and I was like one of 2 girls, in like a class of 30 something. And then I'm taking AP Physics C this year, and I'm like one of 2 girls again. But I mean, I made a bunch of friends, and I just put myself out there kind of, and I felt like that really helped, because I mean, just not viewing people for like, hey, it's a boy, or hey, it's a girl. Viewing people for like, hey, this is a really interesting individual that I'd really like to get to know. That, I mean, helps kind of bridge the gap, the gender gap, I guess. So I guess I did feel kind of weird when I like went into a class and like I'm the only girl, but over time I kind of get used to it, which is not necessarily a good thing because we want to change that. It'd be so awesome if go into a class and there's, you know, an equal number of guys and girls. But yeah, I mean, I got kind of used to it. But,
And it's gonna continue the same way it worked. Very frequently I'm the only girl. Right now, unfortunately, my manager is a woman, technical, an engineer, but that's rare. In my entire 20 plus years of work, it's the first time. You get used to it.
I know some of us have a meeting at 5. Okay, we're meeting at 5 here, but I wanted to see if there's any last minute questions we have. If not, then we can stick around afterwards, asking some
Yeah.
personal questions or anything like that, or possibly follow up through email. Were there any last minute questions we had we want to ask as a group? If not, let's give our guests a round of applause. So I want to thank you guys for coming out tonight. I know that it's another challenge coming after school, etc., but really hopefully this is helpful, not just for MIT, but for any school you're applying to. Some information here can be applied to other schools as well. So thank you again.